Good morning. It's Wednesday, which means that it's Submarine Wednesday. We're back to working on the vintage Renwall cutaway submarine, the kit from the 1960s that I'm reliving, I guess is the best way to put it. And moving along extremely slowly with the painting and the assembly. And so I'm going to continue the relaxed pace today, I guess, moving along very slowly and deliberately. But it looks like today there's enough stuff painted now, and there's even some assembled. We've got the torpedo racks assembled in the inner bulkhead hull part of the torpedo room. The others are on the racks already. These go on here. The bunk is almost completed. I would say that it is okay. It is not perfectly done, but it is adequately done. What I needed to do on the bunk is use a little pen, like I've done before, to put on the rungs and the sides of the ladder. And we'll see how that goes. I might have to do a little green touch-up. As I was looking at this, which is the hull into which everything is assembled, I noticed that when I did the ladder here, you can see that I didn't notice that before, there's a black spot. And I need to put a tiny little dot of green paint on that. Otherwise, the ladders look pretty good, but that one just doesn't. So that will be a little thing I need to do. At that point, I will be ready, I guess, to start putting more stuff together. And these are the upside-down instructions. This is the part I already did, which is the inner hull and those 3 torpedo racks. So what I'll be assembling then today is I'll be putting this walkway on. This bit here that goes underneath these steps, the torpedo racks, which are already assembled with the torpedoes on them, and the bunk goes onto there. And when those are done, that whole assembly, imagine all of those things stuck on here, that whole assembly goes onto this. So part of what I'll be doing today is trying to get these things to fit well. Like this doesn't, for example, those little prongs are not going into the holes, probably because there's some paint in the holes. But I want this to be very tight up against the bulkhead. In terms of cementing, as we've noted before, okay, that's really weird. There's chat on that screen, but it's not showing up on my large text screen. So yes, I will be doing a flip for you. But what I'll need to be doing partially through this whole thing is scraping away some of the paint very carefully, because the cement is actually a solvent that dissolves the plastic, and if there's paint in the way, it dissolves the paint, makes a huge mess of everything. So there will be that to be done. Probably a fair amount here, trying to get this whole surface nicely painted. Paint got into these little areas here, so that one, for example, is painted in, and that'll have to be scraped out without scraping the surfaces, which is what I did when I was doing this. So I'm also going to be spending some time talking about stuff so that I don't actually have to do stuff. I'm pretty good at that, and I'll continue that tradition. The other thing I'll be doing, and you can see all these bits here, okay? All of those bits are this, which is the sail of the submarine. This part here, all of those bits fit into there. They're assembled very detailed assembly because they all have to kind of fit together and get glued in there, and they all have to fit, and they all have to be cemented in and lined up so that these things go through all of these holes without binding, because they're supposed to slide up and down in these tubes. So yeah, I mean, I have to follow these directions. Have to check parts for sliding and getting through the holes and putting them in the right order, and these things have to be in the right order. They're all 6 of them are different. They have to be in the correct order in the submarine, or else it won't be correct, I guess. What I will not be doing is putting this forward bulkhead in. Okay, that might actually wait for quite some time. It goes way up in front here and is not, it's part of this sort of, in that it, like this, okay, and has the torpedo hatches in it. But this is going to come in quite a bit later because of the detail on it. I've been kind of working on this. There are torpedo tube hatches, there are all these little dials and a clock and junction boxes. And what I need to try to do yet is get the faces of these things painted, because there's actually little hands and markings on them. I'm not quite sure how to do that. There are ways of doing that for skilled, steady painters, and I'm not one, so I'm going to try a couple of different things. And then this whole thing needs to be painted the same green color without painting over any of the other detail. So that's just going to take a while, and it might be even one of the very last things I do on the submarine. We'll see. Yeah, so in terms of this, I need to be fitting pieces together, getting them to work well. So I might be using like a little drill like this. For example, here there's paint in this hole, right? Can use that little drill to clear it out. I'd have to scrape down the little prongs, like there's paint on there that's probably keeping it from going in, so in there. So doing that, getting this to fit after all of these other things are put on. Actually, I'll try to get it to fit before I do, because it's easier to work with it when that stuff isn't there. But you can see how that all comes together. Imagine the bunks up there and the torpedo tubes there. It just suddenly goes from this nice empty thing to it's pretty crowded. Yeah. These are all part of that bit. These are all part of this bit. And when I'm putting on the cement, I've got this liquid cement here, which works pretty well. It's got this tiny little applicator bit. But it's still really kind of hard to control. So one of the things that's been suggested in the past is that one uses a brush to apply it. And I've got these old, really beat up brushes that have just kind of fallen apart. And I'm going to actually try to use one of these. Yeah, maybe this one. I'm going to try that as a way of very carefully applying the cement. So like this thing here, okay, this fits in like this, okay, and needs to go up real tight to it, and it sort of does. Again, there's probably paint inside these that are keeping it from adhering. Those are really guide holes, not so much places that hold. The part that's going to hold is actually this here. So what I'll do is I will for the purposes of attaching this when I finally get around to it, which will be as far into the future as I can while I talk about doing it. When it comes time to actually attach that, I will be scraping off a little bit of the paint. See it here between these two holes so that the cement adheres, basically welds these two parts together. After that's all done, I'm not going to be putting it into the hull right away. The back side of the bulkhead, there's actually 3 decks here. There is the head, the bathroom, those are little toilets and toilet paper rolls. Okay, this underneath it is the dining hall, the mess for the enlisted people, and then below it is just like there's nothing there. So I'm guessing it's probably something that's meant to be, oh, I don't know, for ballast maybe, might be. The other thing you'll see though is that there's holes here where these cement in, and supposedly you can't see those when it's put together, but you can. And so after all of this is assembled, including the thing on the outside, is I'll be filling these in with a little plasticine and sanding it, and then I'm going to be painting the walls. There's 3 different colors of the walls of the 3 decks. I'll be after that's sanded, I'll be painting those to match the rest of those rooms. So here, and I'm talking about is the inside wall for these 3 things. So that's kind of, this middle one will be kind of a light blue, and the top one, it looks kind of like pinkish, but I'm actually going to paint it kind of ivory color. It's a bathroom after all. And so that the inside walls will match the rest of this, and that has to be painted before that goes in, otherwise you just can't reach in and get it done. The other thing is that the inside of the hull here, okay, these are the 3 rooms. That's the restroom, and that's a bunk room. Those need to be painted to match the rest of the wall as well. So like this will be painted light blue, and this will be painted a dark gray color. These are another bunk rooms, and so they'll be painted this light blue, just like the bunk room up on top here and here. Anyway, yeah, so that's more. And then when you get back here to the control room, you know, then you start getting a lot of detail where there's control panels with dials and junction boxes and stuff again. So we'll be dealing with the same sort of thing that we've dealt with on here. What I need to do first, though, is go back to this beast and do the ladder. And after I'm done with the ladder, I'm going to get the green paint out and touch that up because it's really bothering me. I need to get that done. And then I'll start scratching away little bits of paint, following the directions carefully, because if you get it in the wrong order, it probably won't work together. And maybe I'll have those 2 bits assembled today, and I can start pulling the parts out. For the third, let's see what's third. The third is, oh, this is a real complicated thing. There's the mess deck. Here you got stoves, you got hanging hams, you got cupboards, you got coffee makers, all sorts of tables, tiny little bitty chairs. You know, itty bitty chairs, more bunks, 4 of them. That's too bad. Yep. Oh, and yet more bunks. Oh, more 3 high bunks. Okay, so they're like this, which were really a beast to paint. Okay, so not only are there 3 high, but there's 3 across. So that'll be I'm looking forward to this taking the better part of my next life. Yeah, so this is a lot of little pieces that we'll have to find. We'll have to find them all, clean them up, and start figuring out how to paint them. The painting instructions are not very helpful. It's like the chairs are green, the tops of the tables are white, the kitchen appliances are white, but there's all sorts of cabinet handles and little appliances and kitchen equipment sitting around on it. There's no painting instructions at all for almost all of this. So the sheets are white, but what about the rest of it? Who can tell? And then after that is the control room, which has yet more bunks in it. I guess they just you just have to sleep everywhere. Lockers. A little thing that goes on that thing, some sort of control surface. Yeah, this is all going to be kind of, what can I say? But once that's done, then it actually starts getting easier. Then you get gyro rooms, and we start getting back into the missile tubes. So I need to do a flip. Move this out of the way. I will flip this pen. There we go. That's not the one I'm going to be using. That's a little bit broader tipped. All right. I'm going to put on these magnifiers for the purpose of applying tiny little bits of ink to the ladder. I've done a couple of these before, like in the escape hatch here. That one, you can't see it. That worked out pretty well. The access hatch, the sail. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Got to start somewhere, so we're going to start with this. I'm actually going to try to do it on camera as much as I can. I'm using this pen rather than a brush. It gives me a little bit more control, although it doesn't go on real fast. It's a little bit distorted because it broke and was reattached. It's kind of in the back. It doesn't show a lot. You can tell there's a ladder there. This treatment goes, it's a ladder. It needs to show. I said this has to be like the worst place on the whole submarine to be stationed. You have to climb this ladder, which given the scale of things is something like 7 feet high, in order to get to your bunk. And then your bunks are like 3 high, so there's I mean, they're not the kind of thing you can sit up in or anything. Just say that people who are stationed here are probably like all under 25 or something. I would not be able to be doing this. That. This is the spot where it was broken, so it's not real even there. With the 2x magnifier, it's starting to look okay. One rung where it was broken is a little bit rough, but you know, from a distance it'll look all right. I need to put tiny touch. For some reason, that bottom right there is missing green paint. Here, there's just, let's see what that looks like when it's not magnified, whether it's visible or not. Take this off and give it an inspection. Yeah, there's some flaws in there that I think I'm going to try to touch up with the green paint. Let me look at it again this way. Okay, like this, and then I take them off and it doesn't look that good. This pen, okay, I'm going to go back to these dials. So these, if you can see them, there's like these rims around the dials and the clocks. And I might be able to do that with this pen, but the insides, I don't know, I can't. So what I've got is a nail head, okay, that I can use felt tip pen to put some ink on it and then try to stamp it on. I can try that. I think this will be okay. This back up, and I'm going to get the green paint. The spots I need to paint are incredibly tiny. This bitsy little spot. This little dot of this paint. Try this brush. Green detail brush. This is the one that's most bothersome. I did it. That's good. Now on this one, it's the very, very bottom rung. It's just this dot, right? So that when you get this tiny little amount, here, yeah. Now I'm looking at this. I'm glad I rotated it because I can see why it looks a little bit scabby. Pull this pen out again. It's just from this angle here, the ink didn't get up. Perfect. That's pretty good. All right. Now, I just got stuff laying all over the place, and there's like no room to put anything. Yeah. Okay. Now, actually, what I should need to start doing is I need to start sticking stuff on. I need to start assembling instead of disassembling. And what do the instructions say? Yeah, okay. So the first two parts that get cemented onto here are the bunk, which I just laddered, okay, which goes on here. These two prongs go into these two holes. That's supposed to hold tightly like that. It's kind of weird. There's this little bit that sticks across that's supposedly holding the fire extinguishers. And that's just as tight as it gets. Okay, for some reason that's as tight as it gets. And what I need to do is, see, this is clear. There's brown paint on that. I don't know why that's brown. The cement is going to go here. And put it on this thing, okay? And on the other side, so you can see it's between these prongs. So on this part, it's between these holes. So I need to scrape away some of this paint. Carefully applied so that there's really no showing brush marks paint. So that the cement will dissolve that plastic there without making a huge mess of melted dissolved paint. And it will then hold it. And at least that's the idea. And that should be more than enough. Okay, and then this one, this bit, goes here, like that, and the cement points are right underneath the stairwell and on the tops of these pegs. And I don't want to put cement on the tops of the pegs because there's a really good chance that that could show. So I'm going to make the cement point under this, right under the steps here, because that won't show. And what I can do is, once I clear that, is I can apply the cement to this and then touch it there. I'm going to apply it to the bottom. You get to watch me do relaxing painting, and now you're getting to watch me do relaxing scraping off paint. And for some reason I can't see there. Looks like I'm scraping up plastic instead of paint. Clean that up. Need to make sure there's enough surface there for it to dissolve the plastic. Okay, so those are those two bits, and that's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, and then these are a little trickier. I'm going to start at the top. So these need to fit in those gaps. So I'm going to have to scrape the paint off of these little tabs here, and they're supposed to fit into these indentations. Okay, so cementing that's going to be a little tricky. And these indentations have paint in them. Kind of an inevitability from just, painting the surface around them. There's now a hole on the other side, just like these, except it's tiny. I actually had filled that in before, but now I just reopened it. I need to make sure that these are at least partially clear, that there's areas that are not painted. Cement is going to go down into these openings. Okay, and on here, I just need to, right at the very end, kind of at these ends, I need to scrape off little bits of paint, particularly right there. Right at the very end. That's the part that will be welded in. Scrape too much paint off the sides because I don't want to, I don't want it to look unpainted, right? but I also need to make sure it fits. So we'll be testing that. And some of it might have to come off, and it'll be on that side, which is the inside. These are going to be, I'm not sure how this is going to work very well, because, you know, a lot of these things are put on there and they're just going to have to be held in place for longer than I really would like to, because otherwise they've got those tabs on the bottom. Those should hold it pretty well. I guess that's about as far in as that one goes. So you can see how that's going to fit. And then this one goes right underneath it, like that. This one goes right underneath that one, like this. And yeah, they just hang there, like that. And I'll probably put some tape on it or something to hold the separation so that they don't like sag against each other. Answer the phone, please. I know what that is, and somebody really needed to have answered that. Okay, so those seem to fit. This fits, this fits, this fits. I mean, as much as they can. The last thing I want to fit onto this is the inner hull. Make sure that this fits easily, because with all that other stuff dangling on here, I don't want to be breaking it off as I attempt to cement this on. There's a little too much paint on this, I guess, or it's a little too big. These little prongs fit in here. And it's not really to hold it on as much as it is, these are like guide spots, right? Used a file on these. I have these little needle files that sometimes work pretty well. Well, we'll try this first. So when I cement this in, sometime later, because all the rest of this needs to set. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of fiddly stuff that when I was 11 years old or so, it was, well, it didn't quite fit, so whatever. You know, I cemented it in at holes. So that's all that was necessary. But now that I'm older and, you know, trying to do relaxing painting, those two fit. See, it's supposed to be up snug like this. This one still is not quite fitting. Okay. And bottom. That's the other thing I should check to make sure that they're not protruding through on the other side. I hadn't thought about that. Seen the holes, you know, the holes show through on the other side that I want to fill in, but I hadn't thought about them protruding through to the other side. Okay, so I'll try this again. Actually, as I'm looking at this, I see a little bit of additional touch-up that I'll talk about in a moment. Also seeing there, the middle one has to go in first. A little bit of touch-up that I'm going to be doing is the edge where it's cut away. I painted the edge of the hull the dark gray hull color. That's the color I'm going to be painting the outside of the submarine. And as I'm filing this down on the top here as well, I'm scraping away a little of that paint. And so when it's up against the bulkhead like this, okay, let me just say it will be difficult to touch that up without touching the green. So I'm going to touch that up before I put this together. It's this bottom one that isn't fitting. This is why you always test the fit well before you start. Because if you started to cement that in and it didn't fit, and you get cement everywhere, it's just, yeah. And if I were doing this with all the rest of the stuff already attached, it would be really nasty. And that's how it's going to go. And as you can see, I need to touch up a little bit there and a little bit there. And then the bunks are here, the walkway, and the torpedo tube. So that's, you know, it's quite busy. No, and there's still a little gap in it. Just not sure what to do about that. I want to keep filing down and not. Yeah, I think just because it's a little warped, actually. So I'm going to make this bottom prong just a little bit smaller again. Again, you know, this isn't something that's holding it. It's a guide pin. This is why it takes so long to do this. I'm messing around with this for what, like 15 minutes, trying to get these parts to go together nicely. So this is going to go on there, and I'm actually going to apply the cement on the outside. I'm going to use a brush and just brush it against that, okay? And let it seep in a little bit. I'm going to, this will definitely not show, it's way in the back, is I can scrape off the paint right around the edge here. And this will need to be held really tight. So the cement doesn't leak all over the inside of it, and so that it holds. It's all down here. Okay, now in terms of fit and finish, the other thing I need to do, I'm going to do this while this is kind of held on here like this, is that this has to go into the hull of the submarine. Okay, if that doesn't fit, then that's a mess too. I'm just going to practice that. So this is holding together like this, and what this does is it is supposed to go right in here. There, like that. That's how it's going to end up looking. Okay, and then this other bulkhead, the one with all the torpedo tubes and everything on it, the torpedo hatches, that will eventually go right there, like that. So you can begin to see how this looks, will end up looking anyway, right? Okay, so I'll take this apart again. Yeah, maybe I don't even need to cement it. So seriously, if it fits that tightly, I might not need to cement it. Okay. So as we saw, this needs a little bit of gray touch-up. I'm going to do that right away, because that's the kind of thing I'll forget about later. Scraping. So this looks like it's, yeah, like I can start gluing things on. If I recall, you're supposed to cement these things and then hold them firmly for at least like 2 minutes. So you get to watch me do this as I count down 2 minutes for it to be held firmly. Like so. At this point, it starts to look like, assembly is going to be even less exciting than watching paint dry. But it needs to be put together, otherwise I will not ever have a submarine. Dark gray. I need to fix my chat window. The chat window came up, but I can't see it. You're not going to see any painting today. I mean, other than the tiny little dots of touch-up. You're going to be seeing me try to fit pieces together, doing tiny little spots of touch-up here and there. Yeah, it's going to be that kind of day. Okay, so as I get this paint out, one of the things that we'll be doing here too is this bit. This is an escape hatch, goes in here, and I didn't paint gray behind it because that has to, be cemented on later. But I do need to paint gray a little bit deeper in on both sides. Put this in here so that if I knock it, no, that's a really bad idea. If I knock it over, it'll get on everything. And I don't want it to get on everything. Okay, that's good. Let's see how this looks. Okay, what I'm going to do with this is, since I have the gray paint out anyway, is knock a bunch of stuff over. Try and do that. Get a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the edge. I mean, the edge of this, the cutaway part, is going to be painted the hull color. So I'm going to do that now before I start sticking stuff on it. paint patches go. I'm not painting the center part, that's where they cement on. They'll leave brush marks later. I can sand that down before I prime it, but there's that. I'm just going to go all the way up to here. That's where the bulkhead before the missile area, missile tubes go in there. I'm going to go up that far and just do this now because I've got the paint out and it's supposed to be relaxing painting. And who was already whining about not having any painting going on, so we're going to do some painting. Why is this brush looking so weird? Okay, I'm gonna mix this paint a little bit more. It's acting very unusual. That is, it's just not covering as well as it usually does. Yeah, it's interesting. When I get to here, there's that's where it was attached to the tree. Those are the kinds of things that need to be cleaned up sooner or later, and then sanded down and probably filled in a little bit so that the hull doesn't have like things sticking out of it. Okay, well, let's try this again. This was supposed to be really quick and simple. You know, just a little bit of paint on the edges, and it's turning out to be more of a challenge for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Maybe I think I thinned this paint a little bit, and maybe I did it too much. Well, worst comes to worst, I'll just put a second coat on. Like here, it just didn't cover. That's not the end of the world to have to do that. Here I need to be a little more careful. I don't want to get it onto the green. I just want it to be the edge where it was cut away. The idea here is that the hull is cut through. So you see this dark steel color, right? least what we're doing is we're getting some painting in. Okay, since this has been thinned, it's going to dry really quickly. And then it didn't cover, so I'm going to have to go back over that. Put another coat on. Because behaving. All right. Yeah. Should just leave this open and let it evaporate a little bit. Got down near the bottom of the jar, and so the paint was really, it was starting to gum up, right? And as it did that, I just threw a little thinner in and, you know, non-scientific, non-measuring, just threw some thinner in and it just thinned it a little too much. But it's a lot easier to paint this little bit now than when there's stuff all over it. You know, stuck on the inside. No, I can sand that off later. I don't know why I'm messing with it. Yeah, I mean, it's better with the second coat. We'll see how it looks when it dries. Get all these tiny little parts. And then there's this big hull. Maneuver it. Crowded work surface where I have very carefully not cleaned it up very well. Okay, well, I've been talking about what I'm going to be doing without doing it, with quite a bit of success so far this morning. I haven't talked about 60s cartoons. On Friday, started talking about some, and then on Monday, a little bit more. So pick up kind of where I left off on Monday. That time was adult cartoon. And I remember my dad saying, "We have to watch this tonight. It's an adult cartoon." And I'm thinking, you know, what does that mean? You know, there's been adults in the cartoons. Boris Badenoff was an adult. I mean, right? What does it mean, adult cartoon? No. It's a cartoon that's meant for adults, not just kids. Although anybody who's watched Rocky and Bullwinkle would know that was a thing all along anyway. Yeah. So we all sat down and we watched the very first cartoon show designed for the entire family, including all adults. And it was the Flintstones, a modern Stone Age family who hailed from the town of Bedrock. The case right out of history. Anyway, we all rode down the street courtesy of Fred's feet, you know, on and on like that. It was pretty clear later on, when I finally, you know, got a little bit older, to realize that what the Flintstones was actually the Honeymooners, a wonderful old very early TV show with Jackie Gleason and a bunch of other people whose names I should remember, but I don't right off. Yeah, so the Flintstones came on, and we all watched that. So cartoon, it was a big breakthrough in animation. Then later on, we got, what was it? The Jetsons came along. Okay, that's not the brush I was going to use. This is the brush I was going to use. So what I'm going to do is, as I start assembling, and I'm actually going to do that now, I'm going to start putting pieces together. And at some point, I need to fix my chat screen. I can't do that now because it would mess up the whole thing. I don't remember the ads on the Flintstones, but given the time, I guess it wouldn't be totally inconceivable that there would be smoking ads on the Flintstones. It would be inappropriate, but that wouldn't stop anybody, right? But yeah, so the Flintstones came on, and we enjoyed that a lot, and it was just like the honeymooners, and it was great fun, and then the Jetsons came along. But what I realized as I was reflecting back on my chatting about the Flintstones, being an adult cartoon and all, is that I haven't talked about one of the most important cartoons in the 1960s, and that's Yogi Bear. Right? I mean, how could we not be talking about Yogi Bear? Yogi Bear was pretty one-dimensional. Yogi Bear was in the Ranger's hair, and if you had a picnic basket, you will find him there. And that is pretty much everything there ever was about Yogi Bear. But we watched that over and over and over. It was pretty good. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for like plain. No, I wrote a note on that. I don't want to mess that up. I'm just going to squeeze out some of this cement onto a piece of non-absorbent yellow legal pad here. And I'm going to use a brush to apply it rather than the nozzle applicator. And I'm just going to try this to see how it works. These are really important. These are the things you slip into the nozzle because the cement hardens on the inside. It's not supposed to, but it did. So this is the thing you slip into the nozzle to okay, this is going badly. Why is that running into a blockade? There. Okay, that's really not good. When I first opened this, okay, I might have to do it again, it's supposed to be open all the way. This is supposed to be all sealed, and the tip is sealed, right? That's what holds it all together. And there was, it didn't come out. And so I cracked this open, which was not designed to happen. And there was this plug in it. I had to drill that out, and it was right about here, and it's like it plugged up again. It's almost like there was a little bit of polystyrene plastic on the inside. It's almost like that was still there, and it dissolves in the cement. You know, this isn't going to go well if I can't get the cement out. So it was almost like that, and I drilled a hole through it. I think what happened is that it's still there, and it dissolved again and formed a plug. And this little wire, which is supposed to just like clear out little bits of cement, is hitting it right there. Okay, try this one. It's a little heavier wire. There's just a blockage there. So I'm never going to be able to use this applicator tube as an applicator. It just isn't going to work. I epoxied this back on because it was leaking. So I have two choices here. Well, I actually have three. One is to just give up on Submarine Wednesday. Faint. It's like there's a little bit of it, because they can smell it just a little bit. There's like many among the options I've got are one is I can just keep poking at it with poke it with a stick. Basically, is I can take these pieces of wire and just keep pounding at it. Okay, hoping to break through whatever it is. So that's option one. Option two is I can get out a pair of pliers and crack this thing off where I had epoxied it before. I have no idea where it's going to break. I mean, it could just crack everything off. Option three is to, instead of having this fine-tipped nozzle, okay, what I could do is just cut it off here where the blockage is. And option four is to use this pin vise thing and I have an even finer drill. And although the hole will end up being bigger than it was meant to be, it will still be a fine tip nozzle. So I'm going to go with that option. I'll be right back. Oh yeah, and then there's a fifth option. I'm going to try option 5 actually first. Option 5 involves a very fine pin. Okay, these are insect pins. They're designed to hold insects. Yeah. So even that's too big for the hole, because this is supposed to be a very, very fine-tipped point that allows you to put itsy-bitsy little drops of cement very precisely on, and obviously that is not going to happen with this. I may end up having to get through today by just maybe even messing this whole thing up and then buying another bottle. I don't know. So even this pin is too big. So let me get the littlest drill out, the littlest drill I've got. Put it in the pin vise here. I'm sorry about this. I really didn't expect this to happen. And this is just, it's much larger than the hole is meant to be, but I'm going to be using a brush anyway. I mean, obviously I can't use this as it is to begin with. Drilling out blue plastic. That was the color of the plug. The side, maybe? I can't really tell. I may end up going with the option of cutting it off. Sure. This is just very odd. But at some point, I need to get the cement out of the bottle. Otherwise, I can't get anything done at all. And now that I've gotten to the point where I can assemble a whole lot of stuff, which is the point of today's show. Stream is supposed to be assembly. I think I might have gotten down to it. Seems to be. See how far down this is. Yeah, this is right down to where the plug is. Now, let me see if anything comes out here. I can smell the cement now. It has a very strong odor. Something horribly toxic, right? So let's see if any of it comes out. Drops. Yeah, well, there's that. But I was going to use a brush to apply it anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Putting the bunk on first. And I'm applying this to this area where I scraped it before. Hoping that's enough to hold it. We'll find out. Here as well. Those are the areas that I want to weld together. Okay. Stick them together and hold them in place for 2 minutes. At least that's what it says. At least a minimum of 60 seconds. Assembling something after spending 10 minutes to get cement out of the container. Oh my. So yes, Yogi Bear. Highly one-dimensional. His little pal Boo Boo. one thing about Yogi Bear is that I had a summer job one summer. That's why it was a summer job, I guess. Yeah, and it was in a engineering department, and my job was to make a floor plan of the entire plant because they wanted to move the equipment around. The equipment was pretty, for me at least at the time, really pretty impressive. They made truck seats, and they started with raw metal. Basically, they brought the raw metal in, and they put it in these big punch presses. They were, I don't know, I mean, nowadays they probably were pretty tiny, but for me it was pretty impressive. They have these big chunks of metal, sheet metal, like 4 foot by 4 foot, and they put them in there and wham, slam them and form them into like the shell of the truck seats. Anyway, they wanted to move stuff around because they were starting a new assembly line, and they wanted to see what would fit where. And so my job was to make a floor plan. So I had to measure everything, pretty precisely within like a couple inches or something. And I did this like a 1/4 inch to a foot scale on this plastic with this grid printed on it. But why I'm talking about that is the guy I was working for more directly than anything thought he was Yogi Bear. I mean, he really did. He walked around like Yogi Bear. He talked like Yogi Bear. He called me little buddy, which is what Yogi Bear called Boo Boo. I didn't find it really amusing. It just wasn't. But he did. He thought he was Yogi Bear, and I guess that show just had way more influence on people it shouldn't have influenced than it should have. I guess it's been, I don't know, like a minute and a half or something. It's been more than 60 seconds, which means that I should be able to take my fingers off of this. I've been holding it tightly, and it should be, my fingers stick. And it's on there. It stayed on. That's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do, this is a solvent, is brush it on here. Holding enough. It's an old worthless brush. And it continues to be worthless, even in this new application. See, I'm supposed to be able, with great precision, apply it to the surface I'm trying to cement, but precision has been lost. You are supposed to be able to put it on with a brush, which is what this is, but this brush isn't absorbing enough. There we go. That should be enough. I said I wasn't going to, but I am, and it's only on the back one here. And this is going to adhere here, and I never clean that off. The where it adheres here. So we'll see if that's enough. Hopefully that will be enough cement. They always say apply sparingly, which means don't put a lot on. So this part goes here. And now I will hold that in place for what will seem like an interminable amount of time until that cement sets. So you can see there's steps down. You can see how crowded this gets to be, how unpleasant that gets to be. You come through that little hatch there, which is just, you have to duck down to get through it. try not to trip down the stairs. And then the ladder isn't even on a flat part. No, the ladder starts right on the steps. So you have to kind of like balance on one step and grab the ladder and climb it up to your bunk, where there is maybe, it looks like on scale, maybe 8 inches or something between the edge of the cliff and the inside of your bunk. I can't imagine that, how that can be, how anyone could use those. Not only that, but they are located right over the top of half a dozen torpedoes, with high explosive warheads and fuel and batteries and stuff. You got to be pretty low on the seniority list, or you have to be a volunteer of some sort to be bunked here. So yeah, Yogi Bear, Flintstones, the Jetsons. The thing about the Jetsons, I don't know, that was another one of those adult cartoons that came along, is that there was never any continuity from one episode to the next. Okay, the characters stayed the same. They were drawn the same way, including Rosie the robot, their maid. At least then, in the future, domestic help was automated, and they weren't abusing people to provide domestic help. Then they used robots instead. But nothing stayed the same from one episode to the next. They kept changing the way the roads worked and the robots, their vehicle and things. So I don't know if it was like a throwaway culture or something, where things only lasted as long as one episode lasted, and then they redid it. Okay, that's actually working. I am so shocked. Okay, so the next bit is to put in the 3 torpedo racks. This will be a little trickier because they don't hold. I mean, there's just these tiny little spots here where they go in, and as I discovered with these, they flop around a little bit, and I want the separation from one rack to the other to be the same, and it will be on the back, but the ends of them will flop around a little bit. They won't. I mean, they have these braces underneath, but they're not perfect. So I'm going to get a little bit of tape. And what I'm going to be doing with the tape is using that to hold them the right distance apart. Okay, so the way this is supposed to work, and we'll see how it does, is I'm going to try to get cement filled into these openings here. Okay. And then put the torpedo racks in from the top down, and the 3 of them need to hang in there together. At least the cement is coming out of it did the first couple of times. There. I should, the idea is that I'm supposed to be able to use this applicator and put a little drop in each one. But I know that wouldn't happen. It would just get splished around. So instead, I'm going to try to do that with the brush. So I want a decent sized drop of cement in each one of these openings. What I'm really kind of surprised about is that I've been keeping this on camera. I mean, I really am kind of surprised at that. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit right on the very end of each of these. There's going to be a little bit of a challenge of getting them in and holding them in place. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. Supposed to go in from the top down. I don't know why I would have chosen to do it the opposite way, bottom up, but I'm being a good direction follower today. And I'm going to do it the way they say to do it. Okay, and as you can see, they're not, what I want them to do is line up and be the same separation from each other. Guess I'm not going to use the tape. I am just going to hold them in place after I get them all aligned. That's a much easier way of doing it. I can see both axes at the same time. So that looks pretty good. They're vertically oriented and they're the same distance apart. And I'm supposed to hold those. They like there to be a little bit of pressure on it. Hold it firmly, but the more I touch it, the more it moves around, and the more it moves around, the more I go. Yeah. So I'm just going to hold it like this. And then I'll show you the result after the stuff sets. And then I'm going to check. I want to make sure, because sometimes if the cement shows a little bit, I'll get a little bit of glossiness. I might have to pull out that bone white, it's called, paint, and touch it up. But I don't want to turn it until I know that this is all nicely settled in. Shininess right in the front here. That's from the glue I used to adhere the torpedoes to the racks. So I want to touch that up a little bit in the front anyway. The color is this one. So I'm anticipating that I will need to do a little touch up. I'm going to take a look. These are the ones that were attached to the back bulkhead. Did that last week. Open plastic or something. They're pretty much staying put. Okay, as I'm looking at this, there's bits under here that are not green where they should be, but that's on the bottom and the back, and no one will think anyone ever see that. But I do now, and so I might want to do a tiny bit of touch up on that just to do it. And then here, that brown, whatever color that is, needs a little touching up on the front as well. So after the cement sets up, which should happen fairly soon, here if I can safely set this down. Like a piece of paper towel. Clean paper towel. I don't want to, I'm trying not to scrape the paint off the other side where the toilets were painted. Okay. So what I'm seeing is I'm going to have to do a little bone-like touch-up. Okay. Just a little bit shininess there, and I'll look on the side to see if there's anything showing there. A little bit of green touch-up, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm looking at it. It's just staring me in the face in a spot that is going to be totally invisible once this thing is put together. Painted. That brown is. I have to look at my color chart here. Pork brown. There it is. Right across the front. That's another spot that probably goes right on up to the next bulkhead and would never be seen. I see it. So, and since it's facing up, and I can get to it easily, I'm going to touch that up. This right here, right on the front. I'm not sure how that didn't get painted the first time. You know, so that looks pretty good. And then I need to let this sit just a little bit more before I play with it to see if I need to do a white touch up on the sides. I know I need to do a tiny spot there. This actually turned out okay. I am really quite surprised. Get it from the side. And I am whole thing. All of these need to come up. What happened was when I looked at the side, they sag. Okay, they need to be up like that. So I was looking at them from the front, and everything was looking fine, but now they're not. Maybe if I do it this might work. Yeah, I thought they were okay, but then when I looked at them from the point of view of how they're going to be viewed, it was pretty clear that they were sagging. Okay, So the top is right. That's how the top one needs to be. And then the others need to be lined up with it that way. Yeah. Anyway, I thought things were going pretty well here, but they weren't. I mean, they actually weren't. It takes a long time for the cement actually to set, which is good because I've been bouncing them around pretty badly here. Apparently have visitors. The dogs are letting us know that someone is here. Okay, I'm going to have to do something about this. Okay, well, yeah, it was going really well until I actually looked at it from the angle in which we're going to be looking at it when it's completed, and then it wasn't. And nothing is going right here. But I mean, they sag, and they need to be like that. That one needs to be like that, and then the rest need to line up with it. Because we don't want to be looking at sagging torpedo racks, just don't. Okay, I'm gonna have to re-cement this one. Well, that was all disappointing. It was going quite well, and then not. What I should have done, actually, yeah, I mean, absolutely, what I should have done is I should have gotten the top one in and let that one set. I'm not going to cement this one in next. I'm going to wait. What I need to do is get the top one in and then do the others later. Okay. That one needs to line up with the bottom of the bunk like that. And if it sags, then that's the problem. So if this one stays where it needs to stay, then I can do the others. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to clean these up a little bit. Get some of the dried cement out. These things are holding, they're still kind of loose. See what I mean? I want the torpedo tube rack to be not sagging in comparison to the other components, especially the bunk, because you're going to look at it from the side, and that really needs to be like that. So I'm going to let that one set, and hopefully it will be okay. And then after break, I'm going to come back and do the others. I'll re-cement those, scrape off the cement, because if that stays on there, it will keep it from fitting. Well, anyway, I thought I was moving along better than I was. But what I can do is, after these two are in there, if I can get them to, orient themselves correctly, then I can begin working on the sail. And the sail is going to have the same sort of issues where everything needs to line up perfectly, Oh my. Submarine Wednesday is what I had expected. Is by now I would probably have the sail half assembled, or at least fitted. And as it is, I've got, I think, about a third of what I was hoping to get done. Part of it was the cement not working. That was kind of a problem. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of lined up. That's staying okay. And I'm going to let that set during break. The longer I can let it set, the better. And then I will reattach these after the break, and hopefully get them lined up so that they are not sagging. When I was building airplane models, one thing they suggested is that, you put these things together and you rubber band them and you let them sit for like 12 hours. Because it takes that long sometimes, really, for this to fully cure or harden. But when I get back, hopefully this will still be in the orientation I want it. Right now it looks okay. I'm going to come back and get the other two put in and then held together. And then I'll start working on the sail, where we have these very lengthy instructions about what needs to be done first. Kind of the first section here is putting this into there, which I'm not going to be doing. It's a way different part of the submarine. So yeah, I mean, these go in here, they fit through these holes. Hopefully they'll go through without scratching all the paint off. These need to go through here in the right order. So this is going to be anyway, so these get cemented in, and that goes in there. But first, I mean, you can cement these in, but if they're not lined up or absolutely perfectly vertical, then they won't fit through these holes. So these have to be done, and then the whole thing needs to be cemented into the hull. Yeah. Anyway, all of that has to line up and not bind because these snorkels and things are actually supposed to slide up and down in these tubes. These long ones go into tubes that are in the control room underneath. So if this doesn't line up, they'll bind and they won't move. Um, so that's one of those where it's a good idea for the cement not to set up quickly because there's going to have to be a lot of manipulation in order to get it right. So sorry about that. They looked really good from the front as I was looking at them, but then the whole thing was sagging, and it was very sad to have your torpedo racks sagging in your submarine. It would have looked very yucky. So that one's going to set for a bit, and then I'll re-cement these two in and maybe tape them or something so that they hold. But if the top one is in alignment, then I can align the others with the top one. So this is the one here that has to stay without moving. And then, I'll be doing things like, so you can see like this. These little things need to go through 4 layers of these little holes. So you'll be watching me do this, this is really not very exciting. Do they slide through these holes okay or not? And that one is not. That one, for some reason, that particular hole, see, that's why you test it, right? It doesn't go through there. So that's why you have to get out this thing like this and hole bigger. Maybe there's dried paint in there. Maybe the hole was just small when it was molded. It has to be like triple tested. Yeah. So now it seems to work. Anyway, I'll have to get these. This is the very bottom one. And then there's this one, and then this one, and then this one. I'll just give you an example here. This is the sample of what needs to happen. Is this needs to go through there. Okay. And then the other ones have to go through there and there and there. All 6 of them. And if they are out of line, okay, then they bind. Anyway, that's why this one is going to be a bit of a challenge and why we're going to have to fit the pieces together carefully. This little bit goes here. And you would think, well, at least you can get that in. And the answer to that is yes, at least that. But then that, the top of that has to fit through here, right? Like that. At the same time that everything else stays lined up. That's why you often see this being quite a mess. And then these guys, these tubes fit in here. They can be pretty snug. They're supposed to be cemented in, but even that's too snug. It won't fit. Okay, so that needs to be cleaned out a little bit. Those get cemented in there. And these little guys here, this goes up through 2 of these decks. And then these little guys go in here and they slide up and down. Anyway, that'll be the challenge next, is getting all of these to fit together and getting the other torpedo racks cemented in and lined up with that one. So I'm going to take a break because that needs to set for a bit. I'll be back in about between 20 and 30 minutes to finish up the torpedo racks and then move on to the sail. Okay? And hopefully that will actually still has a chance of getting done yet. Today. We'll see. Yeah. Well, back to try some more. See what we can do here. The just prior to the break, I was starting to get some success done in putting together the pieces of this particular bulkhead. But after I carefully lined them all up from the front, I looked to the side, and lo and behold, they were sagging, and it looked very sad. So I got the top one done, and it seems to be holding, and I'm going to try again. Hopefully I didn't mess things up too much with cement filling up the holes, but we'll see. So we've had all sorts of things going on here today. The model cement had a blockage in it. I had to drill it out. Yeah, did that. Succeeded. So now I'm putting cement back in these openings again. And the very, very ends of these, where they make contact, applying sparingly. Hopefully it will adhere. I tried to get the cement off. I left for break, but anyway, we'll see how this goes. So what we're hoping for is that these will form a good weld and remain in place. Yeah, right. Okay, the top one is still okay. And you can see the bottom sagging there. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is we're going to get X-Acto knife and the drill out of the way. Get these into the little holes. And what I'm trying to do here is get these now lined up with the top one. That is where I want it to be. That is to say, the top one is where I want it to be. And if these line up with it, then these will be where I want them to be. To basically the vertical separation is what I'm going for, so that they're in parallel. See, I want that to be in parallel, so that needs to go up a little, and this needs to go up quite a lot. And this is where I'm going to do this again. I did this with the other ones, and it seemed to work okay. Is a little bit of tape, okay, and use that to hold them in place. Now the top one's screwed up. That's the one that was good. And the rest of these are getting even more screwed up. Yeah, so everything's going really badly here. Top one was actually in line and located the way I wanted it to be. And then I put the rest of these in, and it's just not working very well at all. So I'm going to resort to extreme measures here. And I'm going to use this to hold the top one in place because it's now sagging. Okay, like this. No, everything is falling apart. Great. So I thought I was onto something here when I got the top one set, but now as I'm putting the other ones on, everything's just moving around, and it's very hard to control. So let me try this. I'm going to try to get the vertical separation and the horizontal orientation in place, and then move them as a unit, maybe. This must be why nobody ever wants to build this one. This one. Okay. What I want to do is get these lined up vertically, and the separation more or less the same, to try to keep them there while I put a little piece of tape on it. And then the whole thing is sagging, so it needs to come up like that. Okay, so that looks okay from this angle, and that's the angle we're going to be looking at it. So I'm going to say that that's all right like that. So slightly out of line vertically, but the bottom ones are going in a little bit. So I'm thinking that's okay. Well, this is going to turn out to be like not perfect, but be not bad. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to put some tape on here like that. Tape on tape. And then I'm going to start with a bigger piece of tape. Since these are holding together with the tape on the nose, right? So I'm going to attach this to this, like there. And I'm going to flip up. No. What happened was it pulled it off the bottom. Have these in parallel with each other. All three axes. This might be the kind of thing that needs to be done over the period of like a week, where one is positioned and it sets, and then the others are done later. I don't know. I'm just doing them two at a time. This is just immensely frustrating. Every time I do it, I just push them even further and further away from where I want them. Yeah, so, oh, bogger. Yeah, this is going very, very badly. I have been trying to get these torpedoes settled in and lined up, and they sag and they move. And I try to tape them, and when I put tape on them, I get them lined up perfectly, and then I touch them with the tape, and then the tape makes them move relative to each other. I keep pulling out of the sockets, and yeah, so I would have thought you would have thought that once it got to this point, that the cementing these things together would have been like easy, like nothing compared to everything else. But it's turning out to be kind of a nightmare, actually. Get them lined up like this, okay? Because I just want them to line up so that they're parallel with each other, right? In both orientations. Then I would think that I could just put very simply just put a piece of tape over the top and they would stay, they would hold. But no, when I put the piece of tape on it, they move because they're held on these little sprockets in the back, right? Just a little bit in the back. And what I want them to not be doing is sagging, because there's nothing worse on a nuclear submarine than your torpedo tubes racks sagging and looking unprofessional. Okay, so that's not sagging. At some point, I just need to stop touching it, right? But the top one, if I look at it this way, it's pretty much lined up, but this is the important view, and I want it parallel with the bottom of the bunk. That's okay. The middle one looks like it's sagging just a little bit. It upside down. I mean, they're not quite perfectly parallel. You can hardly see the difference, but the center one, okay, the top and the bottom one are okay. The center one, the point, the nose needs to go that way just a little bit. But if I try to move it, okay, taking the tape away, then then I pushed it down on it and the whole thing got rotated away from. There's no good way when they're just being held on by these little bits in the back. Right, this has just been amazing, frustrating, beyond belief, frustrating. It does not bode well for the next section of the gluing together, because that one's even tetchier. Mm-hmm. Back to the do two at a time bit. Okay. Go back to getting the top two together, and then doing a third one. Right. That is almost. That middle one just keeps rotating inward. A fraction of an inch. It's driving me absolutely crazy trying to get them to line up. And it just will not cooperate. Just absolutely refuses. Totally, completely refuses to cooperate. Okay, that's as good as they have ever been, I guess. Now what I need to do is hold them here. Oh, man. And my chat screen is not working, so I can't see what you said. This has been a frustrating Submarine Wednesday. No, there's nothing in front. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. No, there's no thing in front. They're just held down by these little tabs in the back, which is supposedly enough, but it obviously isn't. But now I am just giving up. This is where it's going to be. Set them like this. Not sagging at the moment, but that's that. And I'm going to try to clean up a little bit because I've really made a mess here. Yeah, don't lose the escape hatch. Okay, so what needs to happen is these need to not go anywhere or not move or do anything wrong. This next part is really, really doofusy, yucky. All of these pieces, all four of these pieces and the slidey bits and everything need to fit together perfectly and then go in here and be cemented in. So part of what I need to do is clear off paint where the cement lines are going to go. The stairwell work. The stairway goes, I guess it goes on like this in there. So right along the surface of this. It doesn't need to be cemented everywhere. Okay, but mostly just there and maybe a little bit along here. That should be enough to hold the stair. And this is there and that's there. Another one goes on here. Sorry, you can't see that, but I needed to rest it on my knee. Okay. Where'd my, getting rid of plastic dust brush go? Little shavings have to disappear. This one is the bottom one. That one goes like this. Okay. This edge gets painted later. This is all going to be green, so I can do that green touch up later too. These all wiggle, right? So the paint needs to come off the very ends, and it already is. That's good. And then this one goes next because the top of the access hatch goes there. So this one will fit in here like that. And I want paint not there and there isn't, so that's good. And then this one goes here. Okay, that's where the ladder comes up to the hatch, and there's a little little window there, and that's also okay. And then this very top one cements on here like that. And right, yeah, oh my, okay. Those were floors, but this should be painted green. I mean, it really should. It looks, the floors are the floors, right? And those are painted brown. But I thought that the inside of this would also be painted like the floor color, but Looking at it this way, it looks like it should be painted green. Hate to like triple guess and start over. I'm going to put these in, at least these, to see how they look. The ladders look pretty good. That's good. But this, no, I'm okay with that. The hull will be green, but the floors will be those different colors. So what I need to do is paint off of these. My little scrapey knife go. No, I want to put the cement on the top, not on the tabs. The tabs will just hold it in place. So the cement is going to go on top here, and I just need to make sure that there is enough here, enough spots to adhere it. And that's good. Those are fine. Okay, I'm not going to redo all of that. I'm going to look at this one more time, make sure it's not sagging. And at this point, not put it. This back end just a little bit so that if it decides to sag, it's like move, it's going to move in that direction. Use a tape wad. Okay, well, I've got like an hour here. Doing that, so like the torpedo is supposed to be parallel, so I'm going to do this so that if they decide to move at all, it'll go in that direction. Okay, so what I need to do is get these pieces to fit. And part of the fitting is that these guys need to go into these openings here. They need to be cemented in, and they aren't. They're too tight for some reason. So I'm going to file the insides of the holes to make sure that there's no paint, that the paint is what not holding it up. To be particularly painty. And then the very bottom here around the edges needs to not have paint on it. So I'm going to very carefully below that little line there, clear away some of the paint that's on it. Especially right up at the edge, because this is supposed to fit snugly into that hole. And if there's a rim of paint right there, that's going to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to do this on all three, and then I'll see if I can fit them in. try to get the paint looking good on them. But then there's these tiny little connection points, right? So if you get the paint, if the paint is adequate, and then the parts don't fit, then it looks really, it doesn't look good. So to fit, I'm spending like forever getting these parts to fit today, or once they're cemented in to stay put. Well, that's part of the deal. Okay, so what's supposed to happen is that these are supposed to fit snugly into these little spots here. It's there, okay. Supposedly they're interchangeable. This one isn't working very well. I'm going to blame the hole for that. I'm going to mill that out a little bit. This one is not too bad. Just making sure they're interchangeable here. This middle hole is being a little reluctant. Okay, that's better. So yeah, these go there, and then all these tubes need to fit through here. Really? They're not. It's not even close. They go on here, and then that, and then these, like this one is the next deck. These need to fit through, but it's not anywhere close enough. I don't know. Didn't I check these before? Because they penetrate through the 3 layers. Before terminating, just short of this deck here. And then these bits slide in and out. Okay, so that's working. I'm going to try all 3 on all 3 of them. And that one works. This one works. Wait on this one. Clean that up. That's weird. The other one worked on this just fine. There we go. Slide in and out of these. And they do. Okay, and then these need to these. And this one goes here. Oh, because it fits in the hull like that. This one goes here. So that's okay. And they don't have to go through the others because these bigger tubes are supposed to go through them. Oh my, that's going to be an issue. And then these, oscilloscopes and radio things, and those have to slide through. I'll just do that now. I have to slide through all of these. This is how it all goes together. This all has to fit together and then be glued in somehow. These go into tubes similar to that down on the deck below. Okay. They have to slide up and down on these, and you can see if they start getting out of sync with each other, that it doesn't work. But these at least go through all of those holes. But we have a significant issue here in that these tubes, which now fit in here so that they can be cemented in, okay, like this. Behaving very well. Okay, so this thing that I thought would be really simple now, the next step would be really easy. I have to paint. These fit in here like this, and then after they're cemented in, I'm going to have to come back and repaint them so that they're the same color as the green, the floor there. Paint. Okay, but the real problem isn't so much that these will fit and get cemented in here, is that these are supposed to go through here. And I mean, it is not even close. They're not even close to being able to fit through. And it's not just the paint, but I mean, the hole is just not the right size. So I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to end up doing is finding a drill bit that's the right size and just ream these holes out. It's doing. Too bad. Okay. Yeah, fit and finish. It's just like, wow. That's why you try these things out ahead of time, because when you start piecing them together, if I'd applied cement to all of these and these were cemented in and I was trying to, and I'd say, oh, these will just slide in, and found that the hole wasn't anywhere close. And I don't know why I didn't check that before I painted it. Maybe I did and it didn't work, but wow, yeah, that's an issue. Well, once again, on Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons, here on Submarine Wednesday, we are accomplishing practically nothing over a huge amount of time. I had expected by now that I would have that all assembled into the hull. Okay. I knew I wouldn't get finished this yet because these have to set and carefully set before attempting to put the rest of the hull together. Okay. on there. But I thought for sure that I would have had disassembled as well, and I would have been finding the parts, because I want to do that, finding the parts for the dining hall and stuff. This is just a little smaller than I need. So I'll start with this and just sort of ream these holes out. Get all the paint out of them. That helps. The insides of these holes got painted as I painted the floor, both top and bottom. Let's see if the next size up works a little better or not. It's quite a lot bigger. There's a 64th of an inch difference between those two. Yet that is enough to make the difference between it fits in the hole or it doesn't. Very fine tolerances here. Okay, so what I'm doing is using this drill bit all around the inside of the hole and reaming out all the paint that's in there. Without messing up the paint. Just see it. How does that do? Does that come close? It's still, I mean, I can, yeah. Okay. So if I do that, if I carefully get all of the paint out and enlarge the hole, I mean, the tiniest little bit, it seems to work. This is not how I expected to be using 15 minutes of relaxing painting today, but unfortunately, in order to make this work, it is what I need to do. Annoying enough that I'm not even talking about the Flintstones or the Jetsons or Yogi Bear or anything else. So I apologize to all these people who wanted to see amazing progress made on the George Washington Polaris launching nuclear submarine. But what you're seeing is incredibly slow and kind of frustrating progress on the George Washington Renwall cutaway nuclear submarine. Clearing out these holes because these tubes need to slide through the holes without scarring all the paint. That, thankfully, this is working. I might even be able to pull something off here. I might even be able to get some pieces put together. I'm not going to promise at this point, though. But what I can say is that that's working. I'm trying all of them because there are some variations. One of the two decks. This is the other one. The same thing has to happen here. These are really tight. These little bits that you see, including the one I'm reaming out here, all have to fit together nicely and neatly and wonderfully and not bind into each other or slide apart or anything in order for this sail to work. There are other places, other parts that are, I don't know, this whole, the torpedo room, and this might just be the tetchiest bit in the entire model. The next section, the mess hall and the kitchen, are by far the largest collection of itsy bitsy little pieces, tiny pieces. That will be a challenge to paint because there's no place to hold them. But just in terms of assembly, these two parts are the most challenging. Okay, I think this has fixed the problem. Okay, let me get some of these tools out of the way. Here. So the instructions for assembly is this entire fine print paragraph here about before proceeding, check all of the parts for free sliding fits into all the little holes that I did. Okay, so the first thing that's supposed to be done is that this little passageway cements onto here. Here, I need to scrape away a little bit of paint for the base of that. And then these guys get cemented in. Okay. Okay, and then this gets cemented into that. Aligned on these tubes, which are now sort of cemented. And then these two together get cemented into the hull. I'm just reading this here. Assembled sail decks to the hull as shown, making sure they fit snugly into the ribs provided. And while it is still tacky, yes, it is, this third one gets cemented over the support tubes. Okay. And then cement the bridge, which is this little staircase into the hull. And then cement the sail top. And then insert all of these chrome plated things in through the tops, into the tubes and everything else. And that's the final check to make sure that it all lines up. All right. So the last one, I need to remove right at the back here, this access port gets cemented here. So I've removed some paint from the bottom, which is where the cement will go, especially around the back. Okay. And then this gets cemented in to this little ring there. And that gets cemented on there. So I need to remove a little bit of paint from here. That's where the cement will go. Right there. Doesn't need much because this is held in place in the hull. Okay. Do a bit of paint. This guy here. Okay. So if I'm reading this correctly, this is how it works. Is this gets cemented here, that these three tubes get cemented into those, okay? And then a little bit of cement goes on here, that gets cemented onto that, and then both of these get cemented into the hull. All right. And then you put the third one, that's this one. Okay. That goes over the top of this, like that. Again, those tubes lining it up. And then the little staircase in the very top go on, and then the snorkel tubes and things go in to make sure it's all lined up. Does that sound like fun? No. It needs, but that's what's going to happen. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this entire box out of the way. Because I'm going to be pretty much working relatively quickly on all of this. I was using this brush to spread the cement, and I'm not sure that it's up to the job, but it's better than trying to splitch it on with just the tube there. So I'm going to go for this. This is all going to have to be kind of done at one go. So start it and see how far we can get. And here it's coming. Start with you escape the hatchway here. Thing on the back of it. This gets attached here like this. Checking the alignment. I want it rotated just a little bit. Yeah, that's in line. Okay, so that, yay, I attached something. And now these, put cement just around the edges here. Doesn't need too much. And they go into these holes here. Guess I'll start there since I'm using my left hand to insert them. Back, maybe. This is going to go on the back. Check to make sure that they're pushed down in there in just a second. I need to do this. Do is to make sure that they're set. Yeah, they're set down in there pretty well. And that just popped off. Nice. Yeah, this is interesting. So then this gets cemented back here. That gets cemented to the top of that back here. They're supposed to be lined up like that. That looks actually not too bad right now. Right, and then, yeah, they went down a little too far. That's why this all has to be done as one bit. And then these get cemented into, put onto here. You want a fairly large amount of cement on there. And apparently, if I can get these two to sit in there well, nicely, the rest of it is supposed to go easily. We'll see. I need cement, a fair amount of cement in here. It's what's supposed to hold it together. Brush should have worked, but it's not working as well as it should in terms of holding onto the cement and putting it where I want it. Okay. Anyway, there's that. And now these two, without getting cement all over them, so we'll very carefully get that out of the way. These two things need to, wow, did I get some on my thumb? Really? Okay, these two need to go in here. It doesn't fit. Do they not cement on they cement on the bottom? No. Okay. I fit each one. There we go. There we go. Okay. That's how they're supposed to fit together. So see how that all fits? But these aren't lined up perfectly. So anyway, this whole thing needs to slide around. There we go. That slides back. That wasn't fit in there perfectly, but now it is set. And now somehow or other, this is supposed to go. I'm supposed to get those on there and this into there at this. It gets pulled away, obviously. I need it out. There. Come on. Okay. Getting that cement into this for the third deck. I don't know why they didn't tell me to stick it on earlier, but now this third deck is somehow needs to slide. This needs to slide over the tops of these tubes and into that gap. And this little bit is on the top. So this needs to come out. This needs to go over those like that. Work its way down until it hits that spot there. And then all of this is supposed to, once again, fit snugly into the hull. Okay, you can see this is not painted, but I'm painting that the gray hull color, right? This is off screen a little bit, but I need to get it to set in there correctly. Test this now before I start doing more. These are supposed to go all the way like that. I'm going to put those in after I put the very top in, and that will help align everything. So this little staircase needs to go in. And then after this goes on, the very top goes on. Fortunately, this stuff takes like the better part of an entire day to set. And so it was easy to put on when all the rest of the stuff wasn't there. So that's where this sets in there, like that. Allowing access. Is any of it making contact? Of course, I'm having trouble with this little bit, right? This stupid little staircase. Expect this to not be an issue. Yes, it's holding. So now this goes on top. of all of this. And then we put the, oh, come, no. What's wrong with that? How come? Those tubes are too long now? Let's fit these all together. This is supposed to fit on there, right? Like that. And it does there, but these tubes are too long. They don't, this will not go on the tops of the tubes. How can that possibly be? Are they supposed to be glued in from the bottom? No, they go in from the top. Okay. It's okay. It was just being weird. It was just the rotation of it. So I want a fairly large amount of cement here, along here. I'm just tempted to just do it this way. Because if it gets on the outside, that's going to be okay, because that's all going to be painted. Sorry, I'll just move it this way a little bit. As it stays on the outside of that ridge, it'll be okay. Because if it's on the outside of the hull, all that's going to be sanded and painted and everything later. So this staircase is being a real pain in the butt. So this actually this does work. I was really concerned that it didn't fit, but it was mainly a matter of rotation. Get this very far along. Yeah, really making a mess on the outside here. And that is pretty obvious. But what I need to do is totally clean my hands, and then I need to get all of those to line up. And I know right now that they're not lined up. Okay. I'm going to start with these. Go through all these holes. Right. And then these need to go into these tubes. Actually working. The only problem I have right now. Okay, this one's being a little reluctant. Is the stupid staircase that I thought would be like the easiest part of the entire thing. Seriously, there's little stairs. This little bit here is a thing that's being a pain in the butt. Okay, so all of these guys move up and down. they fit into tubes that are down below. These guys move in their tubes. This one is being difficult. The tube isn't quite lined up right. Room to maneuver. I mean, it's working okay. There we go. It's probably just a little stickiness. I need to touch that up, clearly. But including this incredibly recalcitrant, dumb little staircase thing, which the bridge, all of this seems to be it doesn't look totally perfectly aligned here. What's important is that these move through these holes because they work. That one looks like this whole thing should actually slide back a little bit, but if it did, it wouldn't fit. So that okay. So this is the sail, the upper part of the submarine, and it's actually assembled. I'm not too worried about the outside. That's all going to get sanded down and filled in and painted later. These edges are cutaways, so like this, they'll be painted that dark gray color. Yeah. Up against the hull, but it can't. I mean, if these things are going to work, I can't mess with the orientation or the location of it very much. Okay, so let me just look at this. You can see the ladders are working, the escape hatch, not the access hatch is working there. The staircase is in place. I guess that's all I can say for it. Uh, the, the bridge, it's called. The hatchway shows on top there. That's very nice, as well as on the bottom. These continue to work. If these, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, these will, if they slide into the tube, they are going to work. This one, for some reason, is getting jammed in the tube. These others are sliding well. I'm not sure what the problem is with this one. Before. No, come on. It's getting worse. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to send this down the tube. Yeah, it's very odd. Very odd how this one decided to be sticky. Got worse rather than better. No, that's the problem. The whole bottom moved. Yeah, that's not good. Just as I was celebrating success, I had failure there. The bottom of this thing decided to relocate itself. Came out this bit here. Yeah, yeah. I was trying to fix things and everything got screwed up. Yay. These are still moving. Okay, this is in place, that's in place. This is now in place. That's good. Yeah. I mean, that was wow, really something. How it just went from this is going really fine to now I've got big problems again. It's been that way today, where I got something working and the only reason it worked was because it messed up somewhere else. And to be honest, I think what's happening here is that as I'm getting all of these all working here, I want to make sure that that's still lined up, is that the tops. And no, it's not. There we go. Let me take that out so I can reach it. Jamming in there, but it's jamming right at the top. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I know it's not how the instructions go, but this very, very top part is just it's not fitting. Okay, it's just not fitting right. So I'm going to have to see the tops of the tubes are too high, and that is making for a problem. So this is going to come off. It's kind of a messy thing to do. But I'm going to have to modify it so that it works. All right. And the rest of this looks okay. I mean, the sides of the decks here are a little scuzzy because they're not painted yet. But this isn't fitting. It's just not fitting. And so I'm going to scrape off the cement because otherwise that'll be in the way again later. And I really hope that this would be done, but a really important part right at the end isn't working, like the very, very top of the submarine. Um, so this part will be relatively easy to modify. What I need to do is I need to make this shorter, this whole thing, by a little bit. I'm going to keep playing with it. I might even do it off stream just because it's going to take a while and it's going to be not very interesting to watch, I think. It's off screen. I'm just scraping cement off of the model here. Yeah. So this actually started to go pretty well, and then it went south again. I'm gonna have to do a little paint touch up here. Just where the cement got scraped along the top there. There are tabs. See those? That's where the tabs go. And the tabs are definitely on the inside. But what happens here is, when we put all of this together and they fit snugly, including this stupid little staircase. All right. What happens, and they fit there, and this looks good, and that's good, and that's good, and that's good. And these things will slide all the way through. I'll put a couple of them in just to keep the alignment. Okay. What happened was that the very top of the sail, this bit, okay, this is too big, this whole thing, and it doesn't fit on the tops of the tubes. And when I did get it to fit, when I pushed it in, what happened was that it pushed the whole floor and everything down. It just messed up everything. So what I'm going to do then now is this is going to set, including this. These are in. They are level. Okay. These slide freely. This is the important part, is they need to slide through all these decks. These don't have to. They just need to go in the tubes. So at some point, when I put the top of the sail back on, I'll need to make sure that it aligns with those and with all of these. But it did before. There's no reason to think that it'll be a problem. This one kept binding in the tube, but it was something, it clearly slides freely, so that's not the issue. They look pretty vertical, so it's not like the whole thing is misaligned. So yeah, this is just going to have to set now. I'll do the painting on the edge because that looks really crappy. Do a little bit of green touch up here and there. And then, these are all fit. Looks like this one should slide back some, doesn't it? But then, if I have to modify the sail, that's okay, because that all gets painted a different color later anyway. These all seem to line up in front. They don't really line up in the back, though, do they? It's like this one is too far forward, and this one's too far forward, and this one's too far back. But everything else seems to line up okay. I'm just talking to myself here because just having a real bear of a time getting this to fit together right. I knew it would be like that. As long as these move okay. That's the important part. And hopefully they will line up. Hopefully they will line up with the tubes down below them later. But this bottom one seems to be in a good location. That worked out okay. That's settled okay. That's sitting there all right. Yeah, the whole problem was the very, very top bit. And rather than try to modify the tops of the tubes, which would upset all of this, I'm going to modify the bottom of this by sanding it down until it fits properly. Up in the front, it's just the way they're built. They don't line up in the back. In the bridge, this is what it is. I think I'll paint that the dark gray as well, making it look like it's cut away. And it looks like it looks tilted, but I guess it really isn't because the front of the sail slopes down a little bit. Well, this is going to take a good deal of modification to get all of these parts to fit together right. And we're wrapping up. What I have accomplished today was about 20% of what I was hoping to accomplish today. I was hoping to have the whole torpedo room done, and I was hoping to have gone ahead and selected the parts for the dining room and the bunk room. I was planning to do that, and that didn't happen because the torpedo racks sagged, and it looks like they're going to be okay, at least okay enough. I'm going to let that set like this for the time being. Yeah. Wow, this submarine is coming along really slowly and painfully. Yeah. So when we come back, I'm not sure if I'll do some between streams or if we want to watch it or not. But this top part here does not fit. It simply does not fit. It doesn't line up right. I mean, these aren't going to move. They are what they are, and the cement's going to set. So the top of this doesn't fit because it's too big. This part here is too big, and when it sets on top of the tubes, what happens is that it pushes the entire floor down. It doesn't line it. It doesn't work, and so. Looking at it from the side, those are just in there as well as they're going to be. These move. This will look a lot better when I paint it this dark gray, and I'll do that next time. Yeah, wow. Kind of sad today how little got done. I'm going to put these in here. Not so much to keep it aligned, but so that I know where they are. Okay, those go in here. They cut that down. They look Does look like this is just a little bit too far forward, but doesn't, no, it's lined up in the front, you know? And if I pushed it back, it would look weird up here. But as long as they're operating and they fit into the tubes below, and these are working, and these are in the line, yeah, that's how that looks. Okay? That is pretty much the way it looks. Everything is working except the very top roof of the sail isn't there. And that is that. Yeah, obviously they're working okay. This doesn't wiggle very much. It's just set in there pretty well. So I'm going to do some green touch-up paint on the bottom here so that those don't show a little bit around the stairwell when that finally decides that it wants to settle in. And paint these the dark gray color so that it matches the rest of the hull. And I'll show you this. This is what I accomplished spending about 1 million hours on. We got the bunks in the walkway and the torpedo rack put together. So that's how that looks. And this will then go together with this. And that's how it will look when it's done. And then this whole subassembly goes in here like that you can't see. Once those are put together, then that goes in there like that. And that will be the torpedo room. And that torpedo room sits in front of the bathroom and the mess hall. Nice, huh? See if we can get those things to fit together some other time. In the meantime, I'm going to let that cement set there and there and there. And next week, Wednesday, on Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons, you won't see any, you'll see very little painting. Some little green touch-up maybe here and there. If I don't do it off stream. Maybe some edging here. But mostly between now and then, I need to modify the sail roof so that it actually fits on top of these tubes, because it just doesn't come close to fitting. So that'll be some modifications and playing around. So I'd say this isn't perfect, but it it's not bad. It's looking kind of okay. So thank you for joining in to this episode of once more getting practically nothing done on the submarine on Submarine Wednesday. On Friday, I will be going back to the armored not night-like, but nightish figures, the plate and leather armored minifigs that I was working on earlier. Yeah, there. Ta-da. Yeah. Pieces in the submarine, more or less where they should be, more or less working. Less working at all, not working at all. Very disturbing bit. Sagging torpedoes, racks and stuff and whatever, and I'm done for today. That was another amazingly frustrating, not getting anything done in a huge amount of time experience with Submarine Wednesday. I will be able to get these finished next week. I just can't imagine not. I mean, all I have to do is fix the top of the sail and get this piece to wrap around that piece and attach to it and actually fit inside of the submarine. And do a little bit of painting, and then I will spend a good deal of time searching through parts bins all sorts of little parts bins for teeny weeny little chairs and tables and stuff like that. Did it not loop again? I don't know why it didn't loop. I did. I accomplished a little thing. I accomplished a little bit of something. So it is further along than it was at the start of this long broadcast stream. Yeah, it was that. And I don't know what to say. Keep it moving. We're going to just keep it moving. And probably next time I'll spend another however long it takes to drill out the tube of cement that keeps getting itself messed up. I don't know what to say. It was Submarine Wednesday. Thank you for joining in, and we'll see you Friday at 10.